Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the She Knows Pro Football podcast. Once again, I'm Alice, aka the NFL Girl. And once again, I got my good friend Dominick here with me from Fantasy Hot Read. Dominick, how you doing?
I could be doing better, Alice. Both of my teams lost this week. The Eagles look terrible as they tend to look now this year, and the Saints lost, an ugly game. Drew Brees didn't look too good against the Raiders, so hopefully this week will be better for all of us.
Yeah, I'm not very confident in my Broncos at all this season, and last week was another testament to that. So I don't know. It's going to be a long season for me, apparently. So 2020, you guys, 2020. Well, you guys, what can I tell you? We did pretty good last week. We had some misses, but mainly that was because we didn't predict a lot of these injuries. So don't know what to tell you. It's going to be ugly this week considering so many players are out. But let's get started. We're going to start with Thursday night's game. We got the beard versus the mustache. Miami Dolphins, who are winless at 0-2, are headed down to Jacksonville to face the 1-1 Jaguars. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking before the show about the beard versus mustache comments and everything on Twitter. And then, finally Ryan Fitzpatrick said, well, the reason you don't grow a beard is because most people that can't grow beards is because it's patchy on the sides. So, you never know. He's young enough. Maybe it's still patchy. But in this game, it's not going to be patchy. It's going to be very clearly Jacksonville in this game, which is sad to say, but Jacksonville's hot right now. Never expected to have to say that in the year 2020. Minshew's looking great right now. Even in the loss last week, he had 3 touchdowns, which was great to see. James Robinson, their new running back there, is looking outstanding. Looks like it was good they got rid of Leonard Fournette. They have somebody there that can really take over for him. They not only have, DJ Chark there at wide receiver, they also have Keelan Cole, who's doing well, as well as rookie Laviska Shenault, who's doing some good things in the receiving game and in the rush game. So I am going to have to take the Jacksonville Jaguars here because neither of these defenses are good, but I do think that the Jacksonville offense right now is just hitting on more cylinders than the Dolphins are.
I like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I always will. Just has that type of personality that you can't hate upon. But the Dolphins aren't good. Let's just be realistic. They're not a good team. They don't have any great receivers. I'm not going to say they have bad receivers. They don't have great receivers. And they do not have a good defense. Jacksonville, meanwhile, Gardner Minshew is a character all by himself. And he's got great receivers there. I like DJ Chark. I've told people this a million times how much I like them. I like this little rookie running back they got there. I like everything about this team, and I want to see them do well this year, especially in that division. So as much as I would like to pick Fitzmagic here and see them get their first win in the season, I don't see it happening. I don't know where their win is going to come this season. More than likely it'll be a division win, but definitely not this week. I'm giving this one to the Jaguars for sure. I think the mustache is going to pull it off. Moving over to our Sunday matches, we got the 2-0 Chicago Bears going to Atlanta to face the 0-2 Falcons. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, the Falcons were just unlucky last week. I mean, I thought they were going to lose big, and they almost pulled it out. They should have won the game. Their defense is just terrible. Chicago's defense isn't as good as it used to be. Trubisky seems to be playing a little better, but I don't think they have the weapons here. I do think that going back home, being embarrassed the first 2 games of the year, I do think that Atlanta's going to be able to pull this one out. At home, I think Matt Ryan's going to have another great game. Calvin Ridley's going to continue on his major role, and Julio Jones is going to have a bounce-back game if he's able to play. Offense coordinator Dirk Cutter did say that his hamstring injury is a little worse than he thought it was, but I do still think that he's going to play because he tends to always play, and he should have a better game than he did last week when he only had 2 catches for 28 yards. So I'm going to take the Falcons in this one.
First off the break, I got to say this. Falcons, if you get 4 turnovers in a game and you can't win a game, there's something wrong with your team. Stop it. That is so ridiculous. Shouldn't have came down to final plays. They had that game in the bag in the first half. I thought I pretty much was like, okay, cool. They're going to pull this one out over the Cowboys. I was impressed with how they were playing. And then I don't know what happened. First of all, you need to learn an onside kick. Let's learn the rules of an onside kick. I don't know how y'all got that so very wrong. There's some things that y'all going to have to work. I hope that you guys worked on and practiced this week because that's not going to be the last time you see it by how badly y'all got embarrassed on that play. That being said, I don't expect Matt Ryan to have a lot of struggles this year. 0-2 right now. I do expect them to improve. They're playing in a division that right now doesn't look that great. Julio Jones, he's going to come back. He's not one to, stay out for several weeks. He's questionable for this week. I'm hoping that he will make it into the game. Regardless, you do have Calvin Ridley on the other side. Hopefully we can see some more production out of Ty Gurley in that backfield. The biggest question marks always with Atlanta is their defense, which is not looking good. Again, they didn't look looked good last week. So I'm always disappointed in it. Chicago, meanwhile, this is a team that is 2-0, a surprising 2-0 team. And people are like, why you keep saying it's surprising? It's Mitchell Trubisky, people. Listen, if you'd seen him play last season and you seen him off to a 2-0 start this season with David Montgomery not being that impressive in week 1, even though he looked much better last week or whatever, you don't expect them to be off to a 2-0 start, and yet they are. And again, like I said, they were having some contract issues with Allen Robinson, so it looked like there was going to be some issues there, and there's not. They're playing well together. Main thing with them is that defense, though. They've got a really, really good defense. So had any catastrophic injuries like other teams have had. Listen, I want Atlanta to get a win. They shouldn't be 0-2. They should be 1-1 after last week, but that was so disastrous. I expect them to get the win at home, but I'm leaning towards Chicago. I really think the Bears can pull this off. They're already 2-0. They're not going to be able to keep on this roll, but for now, because of that defense, I just expect better things out of them. I expect it to be a close matchup because, both teams have a pretty decent offense. Bears is a little worse for wear, but I definitely think that the Bears are going to be able to pull this off down there in Atlanta.
Well, I'll give you 2 funny stats from the Atlanta game last week that I heard from our friend Mark Sessler on Around the NFL. Before last week's game, teams that scored 39 points and had 0 turnovers were 440-0 all time before Atlanta lost last week. And Dak Prescott became the first quarterback ever to run for 3 touchdowns and throw for over 450 yards.
Amazing. It's so amazing how Atlanta lost that game. No words. Believe me, by the end, there were no words left. So yeah, I'm kind of down on them right now, and hopefully they'll bounce back, but I'm not picking them this week. Next up, we got the 2-0 Los Angeles Rams headed to the East Coast over to Buffalo to face the 2-0 Bills. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, this is tough for the Rams. I mean, it's a very good Rams team. I do think they are better than I thought they would be before the year started. The only issue is with the COVID and everything going on. Normally the team, if they have 2 games on the East Coast, like because they played in Philadelphia last week, they would just stay somewhere on the East Coast. Maybe they would have gone to Pittsburgh, or they would have gone to Buffalo and practiced there or something. But with the COVID restrictions this year, they're not allowed to do that. So they had to fly all the way back to the West Coast and then come back east again. So I think it's going to be tough for them. We see how good Buffalo is playing. They're playing outstanding right now. Josh Allen is playing amazing. He had his first 300-yard game ever in week 1. He went over 400 yards last week. He's not going to go over 500 this week, but I do think that the Bills being at home, I think they're going to be good enough to beat the Rams. I know the Rams are favored in this one by 1.5, but I'm going to have to take the Bills to win this one.
Ooh, interesting pick there. Listen, COVID is wreaking havoc on the nation. And I'm like you, when you happen to make that travel back and forth, and it's like a 6-hour flight to go from LA back to New York again. So expect a little bit of tiredness. I expect some fatigue in the first, let's say, quarter. But I expect the Rams to be able to really make that transition. I love this combination of Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp together. I'm glad that they got that deal done before the start of the season, and to see them playing so well together. Their defense, they've been looking pretty good these first 2 weeks, and I expect better out of them in that division in particular. Buffalo, meanwhile, I'm shocked that they're 2-0, and I shouldn't be. I know I shouldn't be, because they're a good team. They really are. Remember who they brought up in there in the offseason was Stephon Diggs, and that was on top of the fact that they already had John Brown there, who looked good last season. And they're playing with Josh Allen, who's shown that he has a really good scrambling ability. He's a big dude. He's hard to bring down. I like it. I really like this team. And I really like this matchup for this week. It could go either way. These are 2 young quarterbacks with 2 good receivers for both of them. Do I want to pick Buffalo because they're at home, or do I want to pick the Rams? Something about Sean McVay right now is really bothering me right now. And I trust McDermott a little bit more. So I'm like you. I'm going to lean, and I'm going to take the Bills, but I think it's going to be a closer match than a lot of people are expecting. Next up, we got the 1-1 Washington football team headed to Cleveland to face the 1-1 Browns. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, this one's kind of a game that nobody's going to watch, Alice, but I don't know. I like Cleveland. I'm always rooting for them. I'm not rooting for Washington. Dwayne Haskins isn't a good quarterback. They're going to have to get somebody else in there. This year, they're stuck with him. I do think that their defense is going to be better than Cleveland, though. Washington has one of the best defensive lines in the league. Cleveland has a decent defensive line, but they have no secondary with all the injuries they've suffered there. Obviously, Austin Hooper hasn't done anything this year. David Njoku's on IR, but they still have Kareem Hunt there, who I think is going to lead this backfield. They still have Nick Chubb there. They also have Odell Beckham, who actually did some stuff last week, and they have Jarvis Landry. So I think that is going to be enough to do something against this Washington football team, and I think that Cleveland's going to win it.
Listen, Washington is going to have to do something. I'm sorry. In the offseason, I understood why they had to get rid of Geis. It was not a questionable that was a decision that they had to make. As far as getting rid of Peterson, I didn't think that was a good decision, but that's neither here nor there. And their running game is really, really struggling. As far as Haskins, the kid is young. Keep in mind, he only started 1 year at Ohio State. And I think people get that wrong. And that being said, some of that immaturity is starting to show. In particular this season, he's been thrust into the starting position. They're hoping maybe they'll have Alex Smith back next year. That's a possibility. For now, like you said, they're stuck with Haskins, and it's not all good. He tends to overthrow his receivers. He gets flustered in the pocket. It's things that they're going to have to work on if they hope to have a viable season. Cleveland, meanwhile, like you said, their defense had some significant injuries, and that's going to be a problem as we continue down the season. But on offense, I'm always impressed by who they're fielding right now. Baker, first of all, I kind of criticize them, changing coaches or whatever, but I kind of like what Stefanski is doing there now. I like what I'm seeing out of this team. I like that he's been able to coach up Baker and get Baker to try and keep his eyes down the field. Like, I always complain that he scrambles too much, but I'm starting to see, at least I saw last week, that it's scramble as a last resort and scramble and keep your eyes down the field. And I love that about him. They've got Nick Chubb in the backfield. They got Kareem Hunt, who not only is good, Nick Chubb is the running back that you use as your power back, where Kareem Hunt also has good hands and can be used as a receiver as well. So the combination of the two of them in that backfield is phenomenal. He's got two good receivers in OBJ and Jarvis Landry. I expect them to do very, very well in this game, even with the struggling defense. And I do not think that Washington will be able to keep up, simply because I do not trust Dwayne Haskins in that offense. So definitely, I'm like you. It's Cleveland. They're at home, and they've got such a better offense. So yeah, definitely going with the Browns in that game. Next up, we got the 2-0 Tennessee Titans headed to Minnesota to face the 0-2 Vikings. Dominic, who do you got?
Yeah, the Vikings, they have no clue what they're doing right now. They have Dalvin Cook and really nobody else. I know people there like Adam Thielen, but without somebody on the opposite side, he's not the same. Kyle Rudolph has done nothing so far. Irv Smith Jr. has done nothing so far. Kirk Cousins was terrible last week. He had 113 yards and 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. So you can't have that. Tennessee, on the other hand, I think they're going to run the ball. They're going to pound the ball like they did, like they like to do with Derrick Henry. They weren't able to do it much last week because the game was so high scoring with Jacksonville. This week, it's not going to be as high scoring. They are going to pound the ball with Derrick Henry. They're going to get the ball out to Jonnu Smith quite a bit. If A.J. Brown is back, it really makes a difference. I don't know if he's going to be back or not. They're not sure yet with his bone bruise, but I think Corey Davis would be enough even if he's not back. So I'm going to take Tennessee in this one to make Minnesota 0-3.
Minnesota lost Anthony Barr on that defense, and keep in mind they had a lot of offseason moves already on that defense, so that's really a significant loss for them. As far as that offense is concerned, they got rid of Stephon Diggs, made that trade, sent him to the Bills, and the Bills have looked good. Meanwhile, Vikings have looked bad. Like you said, teams have figured it out. Okay, all we need to do is double up Thielen, because Kyle Rudolph really isn't producing. You can't lean that heavily on Dalvin Cook and expect great production numbers, even though he's looked decent these first couple of weeks or so. Kirk Cousins has not impressed me in these first 2 weeks. I'm expecting that, Barr being out on that defense is going to play a significant role. Titans are coming in. What can I say about the Titans? I didn't expect Tannehill to be having the kind of season that he's having, and yet he's looked really good. Even with, with A.J. Brown going out and them having to lean on Corey Davis, who I've never trusted as a receiver. He's always been kind of, the child can't hang on to a ball, let me say that. But he looked actually pretty good last week. And, and then you have Jonnu Smith there. And in the backfield, what can you say about King Henry? My goodness, Derrick Henry is such an impressive runner. And I love seeing what he can do. Their defense, meh, but definitely that offense will be able to, they're going to be able to run the hell all over that field and run all over Minnesota. Definitely giving this one to the Titans. Don't think Minnesota will be able to keep up. I'm just not seeing anything good out of that offense. That loss of Stephon Diggs was bigger than they had planned for. Next up, we got the 2-0 Las Vegas Raiders headed to New England to face the 1-1 Patriots. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, New England almost made my prediction come true of when they came down and almost scored at the end there against Seattle last week. They weren't able to make it happen. I do think that Las Vegas coming back across the country again is going to be tough on them after being already over here for Carolina Panthers. They're coming off a big win Monday night against the Saints. They may be having a little bit of a come down. I do think that Josh Jacobs is going to have a great game. I also think Darren Waller is going to have a great game, but I don't think their receivers are going to be enough, especially going against Stephon Gilmore in that secondary. I think Cam Newton is going to do just enough. He's going to be able to run the ball. We saw that Alvin Kamara, even though Drew Brees didn't do anything, Alvin Kamara did do quite a bit. I think in this case, it's going to be Cam Newton that does quite a bit. Julian Edelman had a career-high 170 receiving yards last week. He's not going to do that again this week, but he's still going to be that possession guy that they really need. So I'm going to take the Patriots to win this one at home over the 2-0 Raiders.
Listen, Raiders are looking good for being 2-0. I always talk bad about Derek Carr, but Derek Carr has actually looked pretty good these last 2 weeks. In particular, he looked good this past week, to get to 2-0, opening that stadium. He did a damn good job. And that team, they might be something to reckon with as time goes on, especially having Waller there. My goodness. And Josh Jacobs in the backfield. Love this kid. I love him, love him, love him. Definitely see good things out of them, especially because it's a terrible division, and I say that as a Broncos fan. It's a terrible division. Expect really good things out of them, but they're going to New England. And I don't know if y'all watched this game, but that Seattle Patriots game last week was damn impressive. Really liked what I saw. And it came down to final play. Well, it came down to a final play, let's say that, in order for Seattle to get the win. And that's fine or whatever. But seeing what I saw out of Cam last week and seeing what I see as far as what he can do, having a great receiver in Edelman there, this team is going to be something to reckon with. And I don't think people expected that after them losing Brady for them to be playing the way that they are. And then they got a good defense. So I want to say that the Raiders can pull this off because that offense is clicking the way that it is. But I like Cam, and I like that. Like I keep saying every week, I like what the chemistry between Cam and Bill Belichick and the way he's coaching him up. Definitely see good things out of this team, and I think at home they're definitely going to get the win. So I'm giving this one to the Patriots.
Yeah, and I like to say, even though I picked the Patriots against the Raiders, I don't think this game really matters as long as, James White is back, and that hope all my best wishes go out to him and his family. He missed the game last week, and it made him different if he were there, but in the long run, it doesn't matter about a game when you have what happened to his family.
Prayers out to James White and to his family. I'm so sorry for your loss, dude. And I wish you so much love and respect. And if you come back, I respect it and play hard for your family. And if you don't, I respect that as well. But just know that your NFL family is behind you 1,000%. And I appreciated all the love that I saw the outpouring of love I saw that players were giving him from all around the league. So much love and respect. Whatever you decide, if you come back or not this week, that's on you. But I expect your boys to get the win in your name. Next up, we got the 1-1 San Francisco 49ers headed to New Jersey to face the 0-2 Giants. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, Alice, this one's ugly, and it's not going to be ugly like last week when it was San Francisco at full strength. This is ugly because neither of them are at full strength anymore. Obviously, Saquon Barkley's out for the year with a torn ACL. San Francisco lost Raheem Mostert with a MCL injury. He's probably going to miss this week. We don't know if George Kittle's going to be back. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out for at least a couple weeks. And obviously on defense, they lost Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa to torn ACLs, and they're out for the year. I still think the fact that they have one of the best offensive lines in the league is going to be enough for them to compensate. They're going to run the ball. I think it's going to be an ugly, low-scoring game because even Sterling Shepard for the Giants is going to be out, so it's going to be reliant on Golden Tate. And if Devontae Freeman gets, up to speed in time, it's going to be basically them, against Jerick McKinnon and Jordan Reed, who has obviously no toes. So it's going to be a weird game to see Nick Mullins out there. But I'm going to have to say in a low-scoring, probably ugly, 13-7 game or something, it's going to be San Francisco.
1,000% agree with you. This game is going to be so gross. And again, mainly because of the extent of injuries that we're talking about. Sterling Shepard is going to be out at least 3 weeks with the ankle injury. Saquon Barkley's out for the season because he tore his ACL. They signed Devonta Freeman, who hasn't been playing these few weeks. So He's going to have to get up to speed even. And look, and we've seen already what the lack of a preseason has done early on for players these first 2 weeks. So imagine someone that's been not playing these 2 weeks or whatever. So he's going to have to get up to full speed. That's going to be an issue for them. Meanwhile, San Francisco, their biggest losses were on their defense more than anything. That loss of Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas is going to be significant as the season progresses. Raheem Mostert right now is doubtful. I have a feeling he's going to end up not playing, but like you said, they have Jerick McKinnon there. Nick Mullins is going to do good in this game. I expect good things out of him with Jimmy G being out. I can't pick the Giants. I just can't. And it's just because, Saquon is who they were leaning on. Danny Dimes is now Danny Pennies. He hasn't done anything to impress me whatsoever. And with Sterling Shepard being out for at least for the next several weeks, don't expect anything good out of that offense. So yeah, I'm like you. I have to take the 49ers. Even with the fact that they're not going to be starting Jimmy G, I just feel like they got more offensive weapons that can, run up a low-scoring ugly game and get the win there.
And they probably wish now that they still had Matt Breida, because as actually today I heard that Tevin Coleman's going to be out for a month as well.
Oh, goodness gracious. So there you go. Next up, we got the 0-2 Cincinnati Bengals headed to Philly to face the 0-2 Eagles. Dominic, who you got?
Can we say this was going to finish in a tie? that would just be the thing. I think the last time the Eagles had a tie was against Cincinnati when Donovan McNabb didn't know the rules in overtime. But yeah, no, this is going to be an ugly game. Philadelphia's offensive line is still trash. Luckily, they're going against one of the worst defensive lines in football. Joe Burrow, as we said last week, he actually looked really good. He didn't look like he was a rookie. He looked a lot better than that. I think going up against Darius Slay, though, it's going to be a little tougher than going up against nobody in Cleveland. So as much as maybe it's a kind of a homer pick, but I do think Carson Wentz is still a little bit better than Joe Burrow. The receiving cores are not great on either side, but I think the tight ends are much better for Philadelphia, and I think the running back is kind of a wash, because I think Sanders and Mixon are kind of basically the same. So I'm going to have to go with the defense, which I think the Eagles have a better defense. So I'm going to say the Eagles finally win their first game of the year.
The Eagles' offensive line is so bad. My God, this offensive line is so bad. And I feel so bad for Carson Wentz for having to play behind it, because he ends up scrambling for his damn life. And I don't see how they're going to make any improvements during this season. Maybe they'll find some signings or something will happen. I don't know. I'm not convinced that they're going to do well this season. Meanwhile, the Bengals, in that Browns game, they looked really good. Came down to some final plays or whatever, but I see something in Joe Burrow that I haven't seen in I haven't seen in Andy Dalton in several years. They got a long-term deal done with Joe Mixon, so they have confidence that Joe Mixon is the person they need to have in that backfield. And a healthy A.J. Green is always a threat, especially a deep threat. Unlike you, I think the Bengals are the ones that are going to be able to pull it out. I know they're headed to Philly. Philly fans are so brutal. If they were there, this would be a little bit different, and I might lean more towards the Eagles. I just don't have faith in the Eagles offensive line to be able to keep my boy Carson Wentz upright. And like you said, the Miles Sanders and Joe Mixon kind of cancel each other out, but I just feel like that offensive line of the Bengals is slightly better than that terrible offensive line of the Eagles, and I think they'll be able to keep Burrow upright and getting the ball down the field, particularly to AJ Green. So I'm going to lean Bengals. I think the Bengals can pull off and get their first win of the season here. Next up, we got the 0-2 Houston Texans headed to Pittsburgh to face the 2-0 Steelers. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, Pittsburgh arguably has the best defense in the league. They didn't really show it last week against Denver, but they still played good enough to win. They have Juju Smith-Schuster here. They obviously have Deontay Johnson as well, although he's a little injured, but he's still going to play. He did have 10 targets last week, which is good to see. James Conner came back. He was healthy. He had 100 yards. 50 of it was on a play at the end of the game, which didn't really mean much, but he still got over 100 yards, which is good to see. At least he was healthy. Big Ben's there. Obviously, like we said, this defense is great. I think it's going to be a very tough time for Deshaun Watson, as we've been saying all year. It's just sad to see what's happening to Deshaun Watson without DeAndre Hopkins there. Who knows what's going to happen with Will Fuller? He was shut out entirely last week. He'll have to do something this week. Don't know if he's going to be able to do that with Minkah Fitzpatrick and others in the secondary there. David Johnson's going to have a rough week as well. We saw what they did to Saquon Barkley with 15 rushes for 6 yards in week 1. They can do the same thing to David Johnson. So I'm going to have to take Pittsburgh here to beat Houston.
Everybody wants to think that one player can't make the difference for a team, but when that one player is one of the top receivers in the league, that one player can make a significant difference. And we are seeing that in Houston. The loss of DeAndre Hopkins has been so great in the way that it has impacted Deshaun Watson this season. We're seeing his numbers are looking nowhere near like they were last year because he has such a dominant receiver, and a receiver with these giant hands that no matter where he threw up the ball was going to go up and get it for him. And we're not seeing that this season. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have decent receivers there. He does. He just doesn't have one up to the same level as Nuke. And it's making a hell of a difference. I understand that they now have David Johnson there in that backfield, and that should make a difference for them. And it hasn't. Not the way that we're seeing Nuke having such a difference there in Arizona. So this is going to be hard for them. It's going to be something that, Watson is going to have to be able to overcome in order for them to get wins this season. And I don't know how that happened. I'm hoping maybe I can see more out of David Johnson as the season progresses. These first 2 weeks, I'm not impressed by him at all whatsoever. Pittsburgh, meanwhile, told you Juju put on weight in the offseason, and it is shown, and he has looked good from week to week. That James Conner, he's going to go in and out with injuries. That's just, that's how one of the things you sign up for is you understand that he'll get a little injured, but the kid is going to play because that's just how he is. He'll play injured. He'll play hurt. If he misses 1 week, he'll be back the next 3. Expect that out of him every season. He's got heart, so I always expect him to do well. Their defense is looking good this season. I'm sorry, Texans. I'm not saying any wins coming for you anytime in the next few weeks. I'm definitely not giving you this one going there to face the Steelers. Definitely got to pick the Steelers in this game. They're there at home. They got everything clicking right now for them, so expect them to get the W here as well. Next up, we got the 0-2 New York Jets facing the 1-1 Indianapolis Colts. Dominic, let's make this one quick.
Let's make it, we can make it very quick. Paris Campbell's going to miss the rest of the year. He tore his ACL as well, another one. But this is going to be Jonathan Taylor, 24, Jets, 3.
Exactly. Jess, I got nothing positive to say about your team. Your team is trash. Oh my, there's nothing. You have nothing. You have absolutely nothing salvageable in this team. Your offense is trash. Your defense is even worse. I didn't think that was humanly possible. Even without, Paris Campbell, Colts are going to get this one easily. And it's not even going to be interesting to watch. Definitely giving this one to the Colts. And we are moving on. Next up, we got the 0-2 Carolina Panthers headed to Los Angeles to face the 1-1 Chargers. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, this might be different if Christian McCaffrey didn't get a high ankle sprain last week, and he was put on IR as well so he's going to be out at least 3 weeks. With that said, they brought in Mike Davis, who was the backup there. He had 8 receptions last week after Christian McCaffrey went out, so he's pretty good in PPR. We know that the Chargers defense is better against the pass than it is against the run, so they are going to try and run the ball here, but I don't think they're going to be able to. They're a very young team. They're a very bad team, and I just think that with their defense being so bad, this could be a breakout game finally for Keenan Allen, possibly Austin Eckler as well, possibly Joshua Kelly and whichever quarterback plays. Hopefully Tyrod Taylor is able to come back, but even if it's Justin Herbert, it's going to be a monster game for all of them. I don't think they have it in them to be able to blow a team out 42-10 or anything, but I do think it'll probably be, a 27-20 game or something like that, but I do think that Chargers are going to be able to pull this one out at home.
Carolina is bad. They're just a bad team. And Christian McCaffrey was trying to carry that team, but all by his poor little lonesome self. And with him being out for the next 3 weeks, at least 3 weeks, let's say that's going to be significant for that team. So I don't expect them, at least for the next 3 weeks, to be able to pull off any wins. And that starts right here with this game. Chargers, whether it's Tyrod Taylor that gets the start, and that's dependent upon that lung injury, or whether it's Justin Herbert, we saw last week what Justin Herbert can do. He had that team clicking. He's got Keenan Allen. He's got Austin Eckler in the backfield. They are going to be fine. They've got a pretty decent defense or whatever. Yeah, 0 chance whatsoever Panthers pull it off. Like I said, with that loss of Christian McCaffrey for the next several weeks is going to be significant. The Chargers, meanwhile, are clicking. Regardless of whether Herbert or Tyrod Taylor get the start, I expect good things out of them. So definitely giving this one to the Chargers. Next up, we got the 1-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers headed to Denver to face the 0-2 Broncos. Dominic, who you got?
I'm going to keep this one short just so I don't hurt your feelings, since we are co-hosts and friends. But yeah, they're just too good right now. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady had a very good game last week. He's going to have another good game this week. We saw that Leonard Fournette actually did something last week, which is good. It looks like Chris Godwin is going to be back this week as well. He already cleared the concussion protocol. So between him, Scotty Miller, and Mike Evans, they're going to stomp all over this Broncos defense. So I'm going to stop the pain there and just say Tampa Bay's going to win.
And I appreciate that. I like the Buccaneers. And if you have Gronk in your fantasy squad, you can go ahead and let him go. They're using him more as a blocker than they are as a receiver, and that's fine because Brady has great receivers, especially now that Godwin is coming back this week and he's got Mike Evans there. Rojo, it turns out, was an experiment that hasn't gone that well. And so I liked what I saw when they finally put Leonard Fournette in the game and saw what he could do. I'm hoping I see more of that this week. And I say that as a Broncos fan, I'm saying that I want to see more out of Leonard Fournette this week. Meanwhile, my Broncos, listen, we're going to be without Drew Lock for at least the next 3 weeks. They signed Blake Bortles, but Jeff Driscoll is likely to get the start since he came into the game last week and looked okay. Courtland Sutton's season is done. That's very, very significant on the other side of Judy. Oh my goodness. For sure, I'm picking the Buccaneers, and I hate that I have to pick against my own team, but I'm being realistic here. Those injuries are piling up. They're very significant, and the loss of Courtland Sutton specifically is going to do them damage badly, unfortunately. So yeah, definitely taking the Buccaneers in this game. Next up, we got the 0-2 Detroit Lions headed to Arizona to face the 2-0 Cardinals. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, this is another pretty easy one. I think Detroit's going to be able to score, especially with Kenny Golladay supposedly coming back. But Arizona's going to be able to score more. Kyler Murray seems to be on a mission this year. Obviously, they have Nuke Hopkins there, who's one of the best in the league. We'll see what Christian Kirk does this week. Obviously, they have Kenyon Drake there as well. Neither of these defenses are good at all. Detroit's is just very, very bad. So although I think Detroit could put up some points here, they're not going to put up enough to beat Arizona. So I can see a high-scoring game here with Arizona winning.
One of these years, they're going to give Matthew Stafford the team that he needs around him. They will, someday, maybe. Or he'll end up retiring. Who knows? But Detroit is bad. I don't know that if they don't start rolling out some wins that Matt Patricia will have a job after this season. And I'm being so serious there. Because there was hopes that he would bring in a strong defensive mind and we would see a lot out of this defense. And we're not. Matthew Stafford hasn't improved at all. And I don't expect much out of him again this week in particular. Arizona, meanwhile, what did I just say about the loss of Nuke was significant for Deshaun Watson. Meanwhile, the gain of Nuke has been significant for Kyler Murray. That was what he needed, was a number one receiver. Larry Fitzgerald is there, but he's older and they got him in the slot. So having someone there like a Nuke who you can throw that ball up anywhere, who is always going to be your deep threat. You know, you'll have Kirk underneath, but you definitely have Nuke as your deep threat. You're always going to get the better of most teams, for sure. I love this team. I love the energy. I love the chemistry between Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. Expect really, really good things out of them this season, and they're rolling off to 2-0 right now, and don't see Detroit being able to upend that. So definitely giving this one to the Cardinals, and so glad to see Nuke there under the new deal and doing very, very well. Yeah, definitely giving this one to the Cardinals. Next up, we got the 1-1 Dallas Cowboys headed to Seattle to face the 2-0 Seahawks. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, this is going to be a great game between two, great quarterbacks. They both have very good weapons, with Dak Prescott having Ezekiel Elliott as well as the trio of wide receivers with, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Michael Gallup. Obviously, we have Russell Wilson on the other side with Chris Carson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. So both of these teams have a lot of weapons. They also have no defense. So this is going to be another one of those high-scoring games. Seattle is playing at home, but as we said before, there's no fans in the stands there, so it really takes away and minimizes the home field advantage. We saw Dallas come back last week an amazing game and actually pull it out in the end. We saw Seattle almost lose it in the end. Tough for me to pick this game. As much as I hate Dallas, I still want to pick them, but I just think Russell Wilson tends to get better as the game goes on. So in case where Atlanta gets worse as the game goes on, so I think even if Seattle comes out slow, they're going to be able to pull it out in the end. So I'm going to have to go with Seattle to win this one.
So the most significant thing that Seattle suffered was the loss of Bruce Irvin and Marquise Blair. Both of them are out for the season with torn ACLs. That's going to hurt that defense. But they'll be able to overcome that because they have such a good offense. We have Russell Wilson there. He still has DK Metcalf. He still has Tyler Lockett. He still has Chris Carson in his backfield. This team is really solid when it comes to the offense. So even if the defense tapers off just a little bit because of those injuries, expect good things still out of them. And when it comes to that offense, Dallas, again, having another pretty good season or whatever, was able to make a hell of a tremendous, unbelievable comeback last week. But is that more of a reflection on the Falcons, or is that more of a reflection on how well the Cowboys play? Maybe a little bit of both, I'm going to say. I do like, don't get me wrong, and that's not saying anything bad against Dak Prescott, because I really like Prescott. I like Amari Cooper. Love this kid, CeeDee Lamb. Really enjoying what I'm seeing out of him. You know, he's got good receivers. And then he's got Zeke in the backfield. My goodness, what can you say about Zeke? Losing Sean Lee was significant for them on their defense. Again, these defensive injuries are what is hurting these teams more than anything else, more than their offense is going to hurt them. Because I feel like they're, like you just said, the offense are a little bit more evenly matched. It's the injuries to their defenses that are an issue. So I'm like you, I'm struggling here because I like the Cowboys and I like what I saw out of them specifically last week. But again, it's Seattle, and Russell Wilson always manages to find some way to get it done at the end of games. I'm like you, they're at home. Got to give this one to the Seahawks. Next up, we got the 2-0 Green Bay Packers headed to New Orleans to face the 1-1 Saints. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, seems like the last three games we talked about here we're expecting a lot of offense, and probably the next one as well. There should be a lot of offense in this one. I don't know if Michael Thomas is going to be back for this one, which it's going to make a big difference. Green Bay is not good against the run. They are very good against the pass. Drew Brees looked terrible last week. Aaron Rodgers looked great last week. So did Alvin Kamara. I don't think it's a hot take to say that at this point in their careers, Aaron Rodgers is a much better quarterback than Drew Brees. So even though I am a diehard Saints fan, and I hate to say it, think Devontae Adams, who is also questionable right now, I think he is going to play. I'm more confident in him playing than Michael Thomas. So as much as I love Drew Brees, I love Alvin Kamara, I'm going to have to take Green Bay to win this one.
Ooh, hot take. Listen, Packers are 2-0 right now, and it's because they've got a good offense. They got a really good defense, and always expect good things out of this defense. In particular, like I said, they kind of improved. I don't know how they did it, but they somehow improved upon what they did last year. So they're looking good right now. You can always expect good things out of Aaron Rodgers. If Devontae Adams is healthy and he's with you through the season, you're going to have a good damn season. Believe that. Meanwhile, Saints last week, my goodness gracious, did Drew Brees look terrible. I don't know what's going on. Was it a sign of age? Was it just you having an off day? Didn't look good. Alvin Kamara in the backfield. If, which is very significant, he has Michael Thomas back, expect better things. And it should help, if they have Michael Thomas back, it should help Emmanuel Sanders, who didn't look as good last week. And I think it's more because he didn't have Michael Thomas on the other side. When you know you have Michael Thomas, your numbers can improve. When you don't, yeah, it kind of hurts you. So, do I believe Green Bay can come in there and get the win against New Orleans, who are playing at home? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that I don't expect Drew Brees to have a repeat of last week and struggle that much. That was ridiculous. I haven't seen him play like that in a while. I like their defense. Both defenses are pretty much evenly matched here, but I don't expect to see Drew Brees have a repeat of last week. And they're playing at home. I definitely think that the Saints can pull off the win in this game. And last up, probably the best match of the week, our Monday night match, which is the 2-0 Kansas City Chiefs headed to Baltimore to face the 2-0 Ravens. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, this will be a great game. I think Marquise Brown is going to have a good game. I think Mark Ingram or somebody in the backfield is going to have a great game as well. Both quarterbacks should have a very good game also, even though Baltimore defense is one of the top 2 or 3 in the league. I still think that Patrick Mahomes is good enough to beat them with Tyreek Hill, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't think Sammy Watkins is going to play in this game, but they still have Travis Kelce as well. So it's going to be a very tough matchup on both sides here. I want to say I think the Ravens have been the best team in the league so far this year. They just looked at it in both games against Houston and obviously in the first week game as well against Cleveland. We saw last week that Kansas City had kind of a letdown. It could have been because they expected to go up against Tyrod Taylor and then they got Herbert and it was a totally different way of playing. So that could have been a little iffy for them. They'll be up for this game. Andy Reid is a great coach. He should be a Hall of Fame coach. But I just think that Baltimore is a little bit better here. I think that it's going to be a quarterback duel, but I think Lamar Jackson's going to win the duel. And I do think Baltimore's going to win this home game.
Ooh, another spicy take. But it's a home game, so I kind of understand. This is going to be a good game. This is the game. If Thursday night is the throwaway game to me, Monday night game is definitely the one to watch when it comes to this slate of games for week 3. And the reason I say that is because I love these two quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are phenomenal young quarterbacks. They can run the ball. They can get the ball deep downfield. If Hollywood is healthy, Hollywood in the offseason put on weight. He's looking good. He's looking stronger. He's looking faster. I didn't think that was possible. I expect good things out of the Ravens. And then, like you said, they got Mark Ingram in the backfield. Man, it's a stout team. Chiefs, meanwhile, listen, Mahomes in the offseason was like, yo, this kid, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, coming out of LSU, we need him. We need him in our backfield. And they went after him and they got him. And my God, this kid has been impressive. Was that the piece they were missing? Was a good, solid running game? Mind you, they won the Super Bowl without a super solid running game, and now they added that piece. Woo! This team is bad. This team is super badass. They're going to be hard to beat. This game, oh my goodness. And the defenses are a little more evenly matched, but I'll give the slight edge to the Ravens. But I feel like the Chiefs are going to be able to come in here on Monday night and be able to get the win. I just have a little bit more confidence in them and think that they'll be able to get it done. It's going to be something fluky at the end of the game. You know, some last minute freaking 58-yard field goal at the end of the game, just because I know this is going to sound crazy. I trust their kicking game just slightly more. So I'm definitely going to give this one to the Chiefs. I think they could come in there and pull off this win, even though they're going to be playing there in Baltimore. Well, you guys, that's all our matchups for this week. Dominic, I need you to give me one start and one sit in fantasy.
Well, for the start, I'm going to go back to that ugly San Francisco-New York Giants game. Like I said, San Francisco has probably the best offensive line in the league this year. They have nobody at running back other than, Jerick McKinnon. They're also going to have Jeff Wilson in this game. But you can, against this Giants defense, which has done really nothing so far this year, really think you could really start up Jerick McKinnon if you were able to get him, or if you play on DFS. He's only $4,900 on DFS on DraftKings. So really start him up there. For somebody who said, even though it's going to be an offensive matchup, I don't think Preston Williams is completely healthy right now. Everybody was big on him coming into the year. It looks like it's going to be Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki there. We know Jacksonville's defense isn't good, but I don't think it's going to be good for Preston Williams this week anyway, so I would sit Preston Williams if you were thinking about starting him.
Those are solid. Those are very, very solid. So definitely listen to Dominic, because Dominic knows what he's talking about when it comes to fantasy. Well, you guys, that's all the time we have today. Want to thank you all again for listening. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at TheNFLGirl320. Dominic, where can they follow you?
You can follow me at EnvisionFF.
You can read more of my thoughts on SheKnowsProFootball.com. Dominic, where can they read your work?
Yeah, you can read my work at FantasyHotRead.com, as well as RotoBaller.com and ExpandTheBoxScore.com.
That's all our time, you guys. Thank you all again for listening. See you back here next week.